Got it. Lamed Dalad Omid base. I'm sure Martin would keep his eye on any late comers. I will start off by saying that obviously challenging times, to say the least. Yeah, we've had our share of sirens, but I must say, I'm sure everybody's getting this message. Mark, I'm sure you'll agree. The Achdus and the amount of charitable work that's going, I mean, not talking about finances, well, I am as well, but general charitable events and activities and incredible things going on here. And, you know, I must say there is this feeling of Achdus. Let's hope it continues, because I think at the end of the day, whoever you are, I'm not talking about political and anything else, we are all ALL capitals. We are all one big family when it comes to it. And when it comes to the crunch, we all know that. Sadly, we've said the situation at the moment, but let's hope this Achdut stays with us. Am Yisrael Chai. And Mitzvah Hashem, together the incredible amount, the tefillahs that are going on, and the everything, you know, the extending all the possible mitzvahs you can think of are being extended in great ways. And I say, especially Ben Odom Lamokim, Ben Odom Lachavero. So really, what's going on? There's actually tomorrow in many places here. It's a fast day. They've got a fast day here with Vaychal. Some places had the shofar blown to really get people into it, and the extra fervor, the extra time spent on whether it's davening or other mitzvahs or, as I say, anything is really something very special. Yeah, thanks for the thanks up, Mark. Yes, you go ahead with that. You agree with that from Herzliya? I mean, I'm sure you can feel it here yourself. But as I say, let's hope that continues and really leads us to the ultimate Yeshua that we're all looking for. But meanwhile, let's continue going. Lamed Daled Omid base, we are getting towards the end. Before we do, if I can call upon you, Peter, to remind us of the Mishnah in Lamed Gimel Omid base, because we now are on the very last comment of that last Mishnah of the last Perek. So if you can, Peter. Oh, Laurie's there with us. Good. Just before we say, so Peter's going to show the Mishnah on Lamed Gimel Omid base, which didn't go round, but we've got it, I think, if Peter has it nearby. Here we go. Screen sharing. Yes, that's good. Lamed Gimel Omid base goes back a bit. If you can slightly blow it up for us. Let's see what we're talking about. Oh, centralized. Bit of an extra. Can we blow it up slightly? Zoom. Ooh. Bit more. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. If we can scroll down slightly and centralize, that's fine. I think people can read that. That is the Mishnah in Lamed Gimel. Whoa. Go back. There we are. Take that off. Right, there we go. This is the very last Mishnah that we saw in Lamed Gimel Omid base. Now, if you look where it says Mishnah 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kashem sheshaliach tzibor. Yeah, shofar tukeh Maria v'toeh sholosh pam. Kashem, the end of the line, up. There you are, the end of that line with your arrow or whatever. You've got kashem. The last word of the line is kashem. Down a bit. It says kashem. There we go, kashem. So it's that comment to the end of the Mishnah is what we're focusing on. So it's kashem. This is the final statement. Very important. It actually talks about the shliach tzibor. Kashem sheshliach tzibor chayev. Just like, of course, we're talking about the shliach tzibor. Well, of course, he's a man who's actually going to be davening. He's chayev and chayev in that preparation as well, before he actually does the repetition of the Amida. Kach kol yochid v'yochid chayev. Every individual is obliged as well in the quiet Amida to daven too. Of course, there's going to be an interesting discussion here because Rabban Gamliel says no. Shliach tzibor motzi es horabim yedei chavoson. The job of the Baal Tefillah, Shliach tzibor, Chazan, is to be motzi, to allow those other people to fulfill their duty, in which case you do not need every individual davening. Just listen carefully to Shliach tzibor. So very interesting machlikas here. We'll see how this develops. So according to the first pshat, yes, the individuals are davening as well, the quiet, the private Amida, but according to Rabban, no, they don't. They don't need to. So I say we'll have to see how this develops in the Gemara. So is that all right? Lamed Gimel Omid Base. We now go back to our own. Where we're up to. So obviously the Shliach Tzibah's davening, just like he's davening, the Tanakama, the Chachomim, the first view says everybody's got to daven privately. Whereas Rabban Gamliel said, no, once you've got the Shliach Tzibor, the other individuals don't need to daven. Let them just listen. Now, let's have a look at the Gemara, please, as we turn to our Gemara, which is Lamed Daled Omid Base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide lines down. Lamed Daled Omid Base. Has everybody got that? Good, a couple of nods. 6 wide lines down in Lamed Daled Omid Base. Kashem sheshliach tzibor chayev, kach kol yochid v'yochid chayev. So even though there is a shliach tzibor who is actually davening, nevertheless, the individuals must daven privately themselves. Tanya, there is a brisa. Omru loyal Rabban Gamliel. They said to Rabban Gamliel, according to Rabban Gamliel, who says the Shliach Tzibor is actually being motzi everybody, right? Or certainly could be motzi everybody. Now, the makeup of the davening seems to be universal, which means there's a private Amida, and then the Shliach Tzibor repeats the repetition of the Amida. That format, there's no argument about. Just whether the Shliach Tzibor is motzi everybody or not. Now, according to Rabban Gamliel, the Shliach Tzibor is motzi everybody. But the format still seems to have the quiet Amida and then the repetition. So the Tanakama, Omrulo, sounds like it's the Chachomim, say to Rabban Gamliel, Tosefta, Lidvorecha, according to your words you say that the Shliach Tzibor is motzi, he allows the individuals to fulfill their duty. Loma Tzibor Mispalalim. Why do we have the private Amida? If the Shliach Tzibor could be motzi them, allow them to fulfill their duty, as long as you get near enough and you can actually hear the words clearly, that should be enough. Very interesting answer. Omar lohem kedei lahastir Shliach Tzibor tefilosai. That private Amida, according to Rabban Gamliel, please don't leave the shir at this point because we haven't got to the end, but according to Rabban Gamliel, the whole point of the private Amida is to ensure that the Baal Tefillah, the Shliach Tzibor, the Chazan, has an opportunity to prepare himself for the repetition. Because in the repetition will enable everybody to fulfill their duty. Okay, that's his answer. Hold on. He then comes to Rabban Gamliel. Omar lohem Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel now puts up his argument. Lidvoreichem, according to you, which is what? every individual should be davening in the private Amidah. Loma shliach tzibur yored lifnei ateva. If you're saying that every individual has to daven anyway, why do we need a shliach tzibur, a repetition of the Amidah? Omrulai, perhaps we could have guessed this. Someone who's not fluent, doesn't know the words, can't read. And don't forget, in those days, they're not like we have this number of sidurim. Most of it was Baal Peh. So to be fluent, and just think about Rosh Hashanah for a moment, you've got to be fluent. Remembering all of that Baal Peh is quite some ordeal. So it's klahoitzi es she'eno boki. So according to the Chachomim, everybody who can should. That's the private Amidah. The repetition is for those people who can't. Even today, you may have people who can't read, can't manage. The Baal Tefillah would do their job. According to Rambam Gamliel, the only reason for the private Amidah is to give an opportunity and ensure that the Chazan will have time to prepare himself. Perhaps you say you should have done that at home, but to ensure that he'll have that time, therefore there is this time available, which means, according to Rambam Gamliel, that the Baal Tefillah is moitzi es harabim yidei chovosan. Anybody. That's where we're up to at the moment. A question from Benjamin.
Could I ask, is it at all possible to translate lahastir shliach tzibur, that it's the tzibur who are going to help him be in order? Or is it possible to translate it like that? Because I tell you what, it's because if it's just that he needs to order his own thoughts,
yes,
and practice, so to speak, you could say let the tzibur say Tehillim or do something. But why is I was wondering, why are we actually saying it ourselves? Is it lahastir, so is it possible to translate?
Well, you've got lahastir shliach tzibur to philosophy.
Is it possible that shliach tzibur is the object of that verb, and that we are keeping him in order because we are now familiar with it, we've practiced it, so to speak? Is that at all?
So what do you mean? So how are you translating lahastir?
That they are putting him in Seder. To order him, to help him, to keep him on track.
Why does that keep him on track?
Because we've now practiced it ourselves. We know what to say, and if he stumbles, which often happens, I think, the shliach tzibur forgets Mashiv Aruch, then people shout out Mashiv Aruch. Is that?
So you're saying that? I'm just saying. To enable the shliach tzibur to prepare to philoso, I think would be the normal.
Yeah, I accept that that's normal, but in that case, because it does then raise the question: why are we saying all these brachos levatolo? We're saying that all these brachos.
Yeah, well, it's not levatolo, but if once it's been decided that would be the tefillos that need to be said, then fine. But it's almost the same. You've got the same time, the words are coming through. It's to insist, I suppose, if it was going to be anything else, you've got a time issue. It would take the same amount of time, both him and the tzibur. Of course, some people are longer and shorter, but the general would be, on average, he would spend the time going through the words as they would be over that same time period. I hear what you're saying, but I think the normal translation would be lahastir shliach tzibur.
He'll make order.
You would say lahastir es shliach tzibur. This is lahastir shliach tzibur, to enable the shliach tzibur to prepare to philoso. I hear what you're saying. And yes, it is always important that you've got, it's a bit of backup. You're saying in case, not bring on as a sub, but it's really just to prepare themselves. But you see, according to, if the ultimately the shliach tzibur will be motzi them all. Well, according to you, that every individual has to daven. Yeah, that's his question. Again, why should this is the Rabban Gamliel saying, again, Omru lo Rabban Gamliel. That's what you're talking about. The question is to Rabban Gamliel, who says that it's just the Shliach Tzibur can do the job and be motzi everybody. Why should anybody bother? Well, they want people to bother. It does sound like the following. It won't be a brochel of Atola. It sounds like here, those people who want to be yotzet saying themselves, let them do so. So again, according to Rabban Gamliel, the Shliach Tzibur, motzi, doesn't mean he must. Presumably it means could. Do you see what I mean? The Shliach Tzibur has the capability of being motzi everybody. If you are, so in which case, why bother to daven yourself? You could just rely on him. But if you want to daven yourself, you can. Do you see what I mean? According to Rabban Gamliel,
but that's not in the Mishnah. The Mishnah just says, Rabban Gamliel, he doesn't. It looks like he says.
I mean, according to him, it sounds like it's got to be through the Shliach Tzibur. You said whether he has to or not. I think the point we're making here, and it comes out from this Gemara as well, it's enabling him to prepare his tefillah, which means they are fulfilling their duty. And therefore, in answer to your question about L'Brachah, we don't need to go down there, because every individual is fulfilling their duty. And the Gemara's question simply would be, and therefore, as I say, we don't have the problem about Brachah Batola. Why should people bother? Why didn't the Chachomim just institute, we'll have the Chazan and that's it? Why is there this time, and that giving people the option, certainly would shorten the davening, just have the chazan being motzi everybody. Don't give people the opportunity, if they want to do their own thing. So no, we do give people the opportunity to do their own thing, and you can be yotzi yourself without the chazan, according to Rabban Gamliel, and that will give him the time to be able to prepare himself. Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest way. And therefore, if they want to, they can fulfill the duty, the job themselves. Okay. Got something else coming in. Malcolm Miller. Okay. So where are we up to? Rabban Gamliel challenging. We're up to about 8 lines up. Lamed Daled Amud Beis. Rabban Gamliel challenging the Chachomim. The Chachomim say that everyone has to daven in the private Amida. And therefore the question to that is, then why have a repetition if everybody's davening? The answer is the answer we know, which is the Shliach Tzibur is there for those people who cannot manage themselves. As I say, she'ena boki. Boki means not fluent or not knowledgeable, or didn't know the words. And that's who they are being motzi. Answers back now to Rabban Gamliel, Omar Lohem, Kashem she'motzi es she'enoi boki, kach motzi es haboki. No, I say, this is Rabban Gamliel, that everybody can be yotze from the Baal Tefillah if they want to. There's the option, those people who want to can daven themselves, and there's that time period available for people to do that, and it's there says Rabban Gamliel, to ensure that the Baal Tevilah will prepare himself. Those people who want to be Yotze can be Yotze, but you don't have to. You can, according to Rabban Gamliel, rely on the Baal Tevilah. So there's quite an important difference between the two here. Someone who could daven, he's got a siddur, can read, can say the words. Would he be allowed to rely on the chazan or not? According to Rabban Gamliel, he's motzi everybody. Yeah. According to the Chachomim, no, he's not. The Baal Tevilah is only there for those people who can't daven. If you can daven, you've got to daven. So it's quite a crucial difference here. Can you just rely, even if you're capable, you have the capability and you've got the tefillahs and you've got the davening, you've got the words in front of you? Must you daven or can you rely on the Baal Tevilah? That's the difference, really, the practical difference between the Chachomim and Rabban, as we say here in the Mishnah, going back, Rabban Gamliel, the great Rabban Gamliel, the prince. So it's going to be quite crucial here how we're going to paskin, because that will enable people to rely just on the chazan or not. So let's see what the Gemara says. Omar, now let's just try and remember that some names here that's taking place. So again, according to Rabban Gamliel, he's motzi everybody who wants to. According to the Chachamim, certainly not. Those people who can't. Omar Rabba Baba Chono, Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Beginning of line, Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabba Baba Chono is saying this in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, of course, first, well, you probably say premier division of the Amoraim. Rabbi Yochanan, the first generation of Amoraim, the great Rabbi Yochanan, Eretz Yisrael, Tveria, 60 years of Rosh Yeshiva there. He says, Modim Chachomim LeRabban Gamliel. The Chachomim agree to Rabban Gamliel, but that doesn't say that in the Mishnah. Have a look at Rashi, please. Modim, 5 lines up in Rashi. Modim Cham Acha Shenechleku Chozru V'Hoidu. We've got the Mishnah as it started, but there was, as we've seen in this Tosefta, this arguments going backwards and forwards, reasons why. Says Rabban Gamliel, this is not in the Mishnah, this is after Rabbi Yehuda Nossi. Ultimately, the Chachomim agreed to Rabban Gamliel, which means the Chazan can be motzi everybody. Says Rav, got Rav and Shmuel from Bovel, they say no. Adayin he machlokas. It's still a machlokas. That's crucial, because you'd expect a person like the Chachomim, normally a Rov, against Rabban Gamliel. So well, we're still left with a problem here. It's not just we paskin like the Chachomim, we don't know what the Chachomim hold. According to Rabbi Yochanan in Eretz Yisrael, ultimately the Chachomim agreed to Rabban Gamliel, which means the Chazan's motzi everybody. Says Rav, I'm sorry, no, I disagree. Adayin he machlokas. This is still a machlokas, and the Chachomim hold no, someone who knows how to daven must daven. Bit of a problem. Shomo Rab Chia Berei de Rabbo Bar Nachmani. This Rab Chia, the son of Rabbi Bar Nachmani, heard this. Okay. Also, Omra Lishmata, he went and said over this piece of Gemara with Rav, got Rabbi Yochanan, Kame to Rav Dimi Bar Chinanah. I'm getting a bit of feedback there, and it's me or
I'll just deal with that. Apologies.
Thank you. Okay, so what did he say? He said over this piece of Gemara we've just been learning. Omra Omale hochi Omar Rav adayin hi machlokus. Wow. He's now repeating over this statement. Did you know that Rav says it's still an argument and that Chachomim are sticking to their guns? Omale Rabba ba Chono. Sorry. Omale, look at Rashi. Omale, 4 lines up, Rab Chia to Rab Dimi. Again, what was the story here? It was Rab Chia who went to tell Rab Dimi. So that's the Omale. Yeah. Oma again. Shoma Rab Chia Bereda Rab Nachman Ozal Omra, that's Rab Chia, and he went and said it over to Rab Dimi Bar Chinana. Oma lei Rab Chia, Hochi Omar Rav Adayin Hi Machlokus. Watch out for these Omalays. There's quite a few of them here. But now we have Omalei Rabba Baba Chono Nami Hochi Kaoma. Who is this? Have you seen the Gemara here? Oma le Rabba Baba Chono Nami Hochi Oma le. Oh, have a look at Rashi. Rabba Baba Chono Nami. He's the author of the original statement. He was of the. Do you remember the original statement? That Moedim Chachomim le Rabban Gamliel. Go up those few lines. It was Rabba Baba Chona who told us, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that the Chachomim agreed. Then we had a statement from Rav saying, actually, it's not true. He didn't agree. He says this statement that Rav said that they are still arguing over to Rabba Baba, over to Rabba. Yeah. Shoma Rab Chia Bereda Rabba, and he went and said it over Kamei to Rab Dimi. Let's get the names right here. Rab Dimi then says back to him, I've got news for you. Rabba Baba Chona Nami Hochi Ki Oma. In fact, Rabba Baba Chona himself agreed to Rav that what? The machlokas still stands. Oh my. So, okay. Nami Hochi, look at Rashi, last line of Rashi. Hochi Oma Shenechlaku Rabbi Yochanan Kasha Oma came. He's now coming forward and saying, yes, but it's true. Keep reading. Ki Oma Rabbi Yochanan Ahoshmaita. So it's this original statement was made in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, was just a statement in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Doesn't mean to say that everybody agreed with that. He's now saying that Ki Oma Rabbi Yochanan Ahoshmaita, Iflig Olei Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish agreed with Rav's statement. V'Oma Adayin Hi Machlokas. Oh, wow. So what have we got here? We've got, do the Chachomim agree to Rabban Gamliel? Rabbi Yochanan says they do agree. Rav said no, they disagree. In fact, further statements when Rabbi Yochanan made his statement, other people disagreed with him. So now it sounds like the only person who seems to have said that the Chachomim agree with Rabban Gamliel, which means the Chazan's Motzi, everybody, is Rabbi Yochanan himself. Okay? Hope I've lost too many people. Rabbi Yochanan's of the view that the Chachomim agreed with Rabban Gamliel. Everybody else seems to have disagreed with that. Now we've got a problem about Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, just to confuse things further, Umi Omer Rabbi Yochanan Hochi. Is it true that even Rabbi Yochanan's made this statement to say that the Chachomim agree with Rabban Gamliel? Why? For Omar Rab Chonot Tziporo from Tzipori, some people may have been there. Rab Chona from Tzipori, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, in the same name of this same person, Rabbi Yochanan, Hilchasa Karabban Gamliel. The halacha is like Rabban Gamliel. Hilchasa Michlal de Pligi. The fact that he says the halacha is like Rabban Gamliel sounds like there's still an argument. Not that the Chachomim agree. This is quite important. There might be a machlokas between the Chachomim and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Rabbi Yochanan saying, for some strange, well, I can't say strange, but for a particular reason, in this instance, we paskin like Rabban Gamliel. He's not saying they agreed with him, because that's very different. To say that they agreed means there's no room for argument anymore. Just to say that the halacha is like Rabban Gamliel means that there is still an argument, which means you could paskin quite happily like the Chachomim as well, if you're not of the Rabbi Yochanan group. You with me? Whereas if it's true that Rabbi Yochanan is making a statement that they agreed, there's no room for the original view of Rabbi Yochanan. You with me? The vision of view of the Chachomim. Yeah? So Omer Hilchasa Karabban Gamliel Hilchasa Michlal de Pligi. So now we've got a problem about Rabbi Yochanan himself. Did Rabbi Yochanan say that Chachomim agreed? Or is he saying, no, it's still a machlokas? Now, says the Gemara, as we move to the final Omud Daf of the Masechta. Lamed Hey Omud Aleph. Next page. Kisolik Rab Abba Miyame. Kisolik normally means to go up. He's come up, means out of the. You have a look at Rashi. Kisolik Rab Abba Miyame, like from the Yam. Shehiflig Bisfina. It's a long trip in the boat. Leyam to the sea. B'choza and return. So Salik means it comes up out of the boat or out of the depths in the sea. He's come up. Obviously, he was traveling somewhere. Rab Am returned from obviously a journey on the sea. Pirusha. He then explained what's going on here. He said the following. Moidim chachomim l'Rabban Gamliel. Yes, the chachomim do agree with Rabban Gamliel that what? That means that the Baal Tefillah can be moti anybody if you want to. That's what that means. But the halacha, Michlal de Pligi, bibrachos. But the argument still remains. Bibrachos to Kol HaShana, the rest of the year, a normal Wednesday, a normal Thursday, a normal Shabbos, in fact. There's the machlokas still stands. It's true. Rabbi Yochanan was of the view that we paskin right, Rabbi Gamliel, but the view of the Chachomim is still there, and many people may want to paskin like the Chachomim. Many people did paskin like the Chachomim. Yeah, so that's very good. Now we've actually removed this argument about whether or not the Chachomim agreed with Rabbi Gamliel. What Rabbi Yochanan was saying, they only agreed when it came to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. There's no argument that we paskin, not paskin, there's only one view. The view is Rabbi Gamliel that when it comes to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, why is that different? Look at Rashi. B'brachos Rosh Hashanah lekamon mefarish maishno hani. Perhaps we can come up with some reasons why honey. No, that's not a name. What is maishno? Why are these different? In other words, it comes like that according to Rabbi Yochanan. When it comes to Rosh Hashanah, when it says Yom Kippur, it doesn't mean the Yom Kippur, nor it means the Yom Kippur of the Yovel. Remember, where they also say the very long Amidah, the Jubilee year, Yom Kippur. That occasion, there's no argument, says Rabbi Yochanan. Everybody says the Chazan can be motzi anybody. If you want to say your own, That's up to you. There you certainly understand now, Benjamin, is this point about lahazdit philosophy. Yeah, this point of Rabbi Yochanan's, well, according to the Chacham will say, well, you need time to prepare yourself. So we'll give him that time. If you want to daven, gentlemen, you can do, but you can rely on the Chazan. And that really gives him his time just to go over it. Don't forget, as I say, often they didn't actually have it all written down. But if it comes to a normal weekday, normal Shabbos, then there is still this machlokas. It's true. It just so happens that Rabbi Yochanan Paskin's right, Rabbi Gamliel on that occasion, but the view of the Chacham still stands, which means there may be other people who will Paskin like the Chachomim. Okay. Haven't finished yet. Says the Gemara, Eini. This is not true. Just have a quick look at the Rashi there. Halacha michlal de pligi, the Ka'omer Rabbi Yochanan halacha Rabban Gamliel, where he said that the halacha is like Rabban Gamliel. Bahach the mashma, the inference is michlal de omduma machlukos, and they're still standing in the machlukos, but which paskin like Rabban Gamliel. That is on every other occasion. Says the Gemara, Eini. It's not true. It's wrong. Fourth line down. We've had him before on the previous Amud. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Beforehand, we had this statement that remember on the previous Amud, he was the person who said the halacha like Rabban Gamliel, which we've now explained. When it says halacha, what did that mean? How did we explain that? That means on a normal occasion. A normal occasion. And when it's not Rosh Hashanah, but when it's Rosh Hashanah, then there is no argument. We've got a further statement. Oh dear. Halacha Karabban Gamliel. There's a further statement where he seems to clarify what he was saying previously, or in this statement we've seen before. Halacha Karabban Gamliel bebrochas shel Rosh Hashanah v'shel Yom Kippurim. Oh dear. That sounds like there is still a machlokas. He said that even in Rosh Hashanah. Yeah? So what are we left with now? We said we had a statement of Rabbi Yochanan who said there's no argument. We had a further statement in the name of Rabbi Yochanan who says, no, the halachas right in Rabban Gamliel, they still argue. The Chachomim actually are of the opinion that every person has to daven. We answered it and said, when it says halacha Karabban Gamliel, that was not talking about Rosh Hashanah. Yeah? But now we see it is talking about Rosh Hashanah. Even about Rosh Hashanah, they are saying the halacha is like Rabban Gamliel, which means on that occasion, the halacha is like Rabban Gamliel, which means even Rosh Hashanah, the arguments between them both still stand. So how could Rabbi Yochanan in the previous statement say that the Chachomim agree to Rabban Gamliel? Ela Omar Rav Nachman. We are getting to the end of this, gentleman. Bar Yitzchak. We misunderstood. When Rabbi Yochanan said Moedim, and he said Moedim Chachomim, Chachomim mean the rabbis. It doesn't necessarily mean the Tanna Kama. Other people can be called Chachomim, Moedim, they agree. Says the Gemara, Man Moedim. Who are these people who are Moedim? Rabbi Meir. V'halocha michlal de pligi is the Rabbanon of our Mishnah. Have a look at Rashi. Rabbanon shah hachachomim chutz mi Rabbi Meir. So we've now got the clarification of the view of Rabbi Yochanan. What is the view of Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan's real view is the halacha is like Rabban Gamliel, but the view of the Chachomim is still a view. except there's somebody, he's called Chachomim, I know it's only one person, but he says that the Chachomim agreed to Rabban Gamliel. Let's have a look at this brisa. Desanya. We're going to have to do a recap on this. Brocha shel Rosh Hashanah v'shel Yom HaKippurim shliach tzibur moitzi horabim yedei chayvason. The brochas of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, shliach tzibur moitzi horabim yedei chayvason. Oh, there we are. Sounds like Rabban Gamliel. V'chachomim oimrim Kishem sheshliach tzibur chayev kach kol yochid v'yochid chayev. So we're saying something very specific here. When it comes to Rosh Hashanah, and now we understand this, when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, Rab Meir is of the opinion that the Chachomim, or not Chachomim, it's Rab Meir, who was part of that of those rabbis. Again, the rabbis say everybody has to daven for themselves if they can. Rabbi Meir, who's part of those rabbis, said no, not on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I say, although I'm part of the rabbis, I say Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is different, and there the Shliach Tzibur can be made to see everybody. Rabbi Gamliel himself is of the opinion that always the Shliach Tzibur can be motzi other people. You with me? So the final conclusion of this is what we've got here. We've got the view of the Chachomim. We've got the view of the Rabbi Gamliel. And we've got the view of Rabbi Meir. The Chachomim say that every person must daven for themselves if they can, even on Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Meir is of the opinion Rosh Hashanah is different to any other occasion, and there you could, if you want to, even if you could daven, you could rely on the chazan. Rabbi Gamliel says you can always rely on the chazan. You don't need to daven. Okay. Now, first of all, we need to see why should Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur be different, and that will lead us to the halacha, which we probably won't get to today, but let's just continue on the Gemara. Maishna, beginning of line is chayev. So what are we saying here? According to Rabbi Meir, he is saying that Rosh Hashanah is different to the rest of the year. On that occasion, anyone, if they want to, they may not want to rely on their own memory. If they want to, they can rely on the chazan. Says the Gemara, Maishna Hani, why are these different? There's so many psukim that you need to mention. Have a look at Rashi. In that long Amida of Rosh Hashanah, there's so many pasukim. The Musfei Rosh Hashanah. You've got the Musaf for Rosh Hashanah pasukim, which you have to mention. You've got to mention Rosh Chodesh. Notice he says Rosh Chodesh, which we actually don't say, but according to Rashi, you said the psukim of Rosh Chodesh. On top of that, you've got all those psukim of Malchias, Zichronos, and Shofros. Because there are so many psukim, even if a person thinks to themselves, I can manage, if you want to, you can rely on the chazan according to Rav Meir. Now, the Gemara suggests the reason why we are more lenient according to Rav Meir on Rosh Hashanah, and every person can rely on the Baal Tefillah, maybe the reason is because there's so many psukim. Got to remember all those psukim, quite tricky. Says the Gemara, no, because if a person feels unsure, doubtful that they can remember it, for Omar Rav Chananel Omar Rav, very interesting halacha. Kiven she'oma uvesoiroscha kosov leimar. Once you've said, and in your Torah it says, it's written, shuv eino tzorich. You don't actually need to mention the psukim. Fascinating. Look at Rashi. Kiven she'oma b'soros chokosov koloima. Kiven she'oma na'aseh v'nikra. You don't just say that, nothing else. You'd say, oh, don't forget the Musaf Amida talks about that we look forward to the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash. V'shon na'aseh, there what happened? We performed, and we went makrib lefanecha, k'mitzvahs returnecha, says Rashi, k'moshe kosavto oleinu b'sorasecha, as it's written in your Torah. You could just stop there. You don't actually need to mention the psukim. In which case, there's no reason to be lenient. If you feel totally confident, do so. If you don't feel totally confident, say, why do you need to be lenient, Rav Meir, and say, well, if people are not sure, we allow them then to rely on the chazan? It's a very simple option. Just say, so again, we don't need to be more lenient than on a normal occasion, according to the Chachomim, the Baal Tefillin in the repetition is only for those people who are not capable. Those people who are doubtful, says the Gemara about the Psukim, let them just say V'soras Chokos of Lema. You don't need to have an extra leniency for these people, right? Says the Gemara, no, that's not the worry. The worry is the Avsha Brochus. The actual Brochus, the loss of the Brochus is so long. That's where people may get confused. And there, you can't just make up the words. As in the rest of Dami, are you with me? Surrounding the psukim that we mentioned for Zichronis, Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofar, there's a lot more in those tefillahs. It's those tefillahs that we're worried about. You with me? And therefore, because people may feel unsure, therefore, even if you really are a Bokkie, but you're a bit unhappy, a bit unsure, there is a leniency for you to rely on the Baal Tefillah. That's only according to...
Explain, Norman, why does that potter alleviate the need to stay for the psukim? I can't understand what you learned from the... How does that...
No, keep going. Keep going in that Rashi. K'moshe kosavto oleinu. You've got to say those words as well. Could you see the Rashi? You say, yes, like we brought, or like we look forward to bringing the korbanos and then bringing the musaf offering. What is the musaf offering? K'moshe kosaf. That's what it means, k'moshe kosavto b'sorasecha. As written in the Torah, in your Torah, what would the korban of Rosh Hashanah be? You with me? What do we normally say? We normally...
But it's not just the korban. It's not just the korban. We've got Malchus, Zichronos, Shofar. We've got all these... We've got these nice...
You're absolutely right. Yeah, good point. You're right. According to Rashi, it sounds like you could just say K'moshe kosavto oleinu b'sorasecha, and you could do the same with Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofars. That's what we think. You're right. You've actually prompted the Tosfos.
I don't think I've prompted them.
Well, no, you have by asking your question. In layman, look at the top Tosfos, please. Pirish v'kuntras, the Ike, the Musfe, you've got the Musaf, Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Hashanah, the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. Don't forget, Rosh Hashanah is also Rosh Chodesh. So the korbanos which are brought for Rosh Chodesh, people forget about that, but there is that. And plus Rosh Hashanah, Malchus are in Fosha, Kiven she'oma v'soroscha kosuv lema, Kiven she'oma na'aseh v'nachri profanecho k'mitzvahs ritzonecha. I'm doing the Tosfos very quickly. K'moshe kosavto oleinu v'sorasecha, ein tzorich loima mikrois. Now, he's added, that's your point. Yeah. You with me? Yeah. So in which case your question is still a very good question. You may have knocked on the head, if you like, all the psukim for the actual korbanos, but you haven't taken out also those psukim for Malchus and Zichronos and Shofars. Rashi doesn't actually go that far, but it sounds like that, and that's really your question. Your question is by saying, as it's written in your Torah, that's talking about the Korbanos. It's not talking about those psukim for Malchus and Zechronis and Shofros. Continue Tosfos. Now, before you go any further, continue on. Go back to Rashi, please. Elo mishum da avshi, because the davening is long. Sharikan tesha, there are 9 long brochas, va'aruchos umatos, which means it sounds like you can easily make a mistake from the word tos. You with me? So the final answer of the Gemara is, we'll come back to your point now, Mervyn, which is it's the brachas which is causing the leniency of the Rab Meir, who says on Rosh Hashanah, anybody can rely on the Baal Tefillah. Now continue Rashi, please. My teachers, wonderful when Rashi refers to his teachers, Lahor de Rav Chananel, when Rav Chananel made this statement, that you can just say of a Saros Lakos of Lema, he's talking about Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofros as well. Now, says Rashi, that will be a very nice answer. But Rashi's got a problem with that. But Kashali, Ho, the lo karabonon, the lo karabiyuchan ben Nuri. People may remember, going back a bit, we had a Mishnah which says, Ein poichsin me'asora malchus. Do you remember there was a machlokus? What is the minimum number of psukim you can say in Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofros? One person said 10, one person said 3. Nobody suggests naught just by saying, as it says in your Tanakh or as it says in your Torah. Nobody suggests that, says Rashi. So therefore, it's quite difficult actually. Rashi is therefore suggesting that the only thing you could remove from the equation would be the psukim for the korbanos. But that's actually quite a small number compared to those 3 sets of 9. You with me? But nevertheless, Rashi's pshat is that yes, you can get away only by saying Visaros Chokos of Lema, only the psukim of the Amida. You've therefore reduced that number somewhat. That's therefore not such a problem. You haven't got so many psukim to say. Still got quite a few, 27. But nevertheless, the Gemara's conclusion is, you know why we're lenient is because the actual brocha itself is very long. But go back to the Tosfos, please. V'Rabbeinu Tam Pirish. I've jumped a little bit. For kosher, that was a kosher. Oh, let me go up a couple of lines. For kosher, ho, beginning line Tosfos. Ho de lo korabona do kabiyuchna minori. That was Rashi's question. To stand in poichsim asora malchius, which means you can either have 10, you can have 3 psukim, but you can't have no psukim. Nobody suggests that. However, Rabbeinu Tam Pirish, there we are, got the Einikel disagreeing with the Zaidi. Rabbeinu Tam arguing and saying, no, with respect, Zaidi, actually, they weren't alive at the same time, but Rabbeinu Tam still saying, Pirish da apsuke malchis zichronis and shofros koi. In fact, this Gemara is much easier because you can get away just by saying Sarostok Kos of Lema or in Nach or whatever. You don't actually need to mention the psukim. What are you going to do with that Mishnah? The Mishnah says 10 or 3, never naught. Once you started and you actually want to reckon out psukim, then the lo yivchus lamarka de islay, each one according to their view, whether it's 10 or 3. In other words, if you're saying psukim, you've got to say 10 or 3. Remember, we're the Torah Nevi'im, Ksuvim, etc. Avol yochel lifta atzma legamrei al yidei b'soiroscha kosuv leimar. That you can actually get away with. Avol mikros she musaf tzorech lahaski. He disagrees the opposite to Rashi and says it's a psukim of Musaf you have to mention. Sheheim b'mokum hakorbanos. Avu Musaf derish chodesh ein tzorech lahazkir. Rosh Hashanah, ela shedailoi, it will be enough to say Bameh she'oma, besides Olas HaChodesh u'Minchos. And that's in fact what we do in our davening today. Shebezeh nichlal kol musfei Rosh Chodesh ha'olos. Yeah,
Is it interpreted with Tarosco as Jenas, including Nap as well?
Presumably, yeah.
Tarosco means the being as well.
Yeah, although, yeah, you're right, you have to say B'Sorascha, you have to say the word Torah is actually Ukamai, or you have to say, if you're mentioning Psukim, Torah and Vim Ksudim. Or you'd say the word Torah would be enough to encompass everything. You may want to, Peter, to turn up a sound there. Yeah. Oh, okay. So 1 minute, what are we saying in the end? According to Rabbeinu Tam, he says, you can just get away with saying of a Soroscha Kosov Leimar and not mention any Pesukim. So it seems like the word Torah will actually incorporate perhaps all of Tanakh. But you don't need to mention the Pesukim for the Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofras. The Pesukim of the Korbanos you've got to mention, but you don't need to mention the Rosh Chodesh ones because you can just say, I'm mentioning Rosh Hashanah besides the ones which are brought for Rosh Chodesh. Interesting how you can get away with that without actually mentioning the Pesukim. Okay, that's very good for the Oila. Okay, de la Hazkir Gam Hasoer. Remember the Shu Chatos. Yoma Ushnei Seirim Lachapa. There will be 2 Seirim, goats brought for the Chatos, because one for Rosh Hashanah and one for Rosh Chodesh. Ushnei Smidim Kil Chosom. So what's the final line here? We're only trying to explain the view of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, why are they more lenient when it comes to Rosh Hashanah? Because it's a very long davening. That's the reason. As it turns out, there's a side halacha coming in here, which is more coming up for next week. You've got the Gufo coming up now. There's a side point about the Psukim. Because in the end, it's because of the long brachas, Rab Meir was lenient. So we've still got 3 views here. We've got the Chachomim, who say, if you know how to daven, you've got to daven. We've got Rabbi Gamliel, who says, no, you can always rely on the Baal Tefillah, always. And then we have in between Rabbi Meir, who says, when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, every person can rely on the Baal Tefillah, don't even try. Why? Because it's a long davening. And then we've got an internal point, which is whether you can get away with just saying the Soroscha Kosov Leimar. And that, the Gemara will talk about before. Well, actually, the point that we've read before will come up now in the Gemara of tonight. So we're left with the Machloikas between Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachomim. Watch this space. How are we going to paskin actually? And we're left with a separate point, which is, can you generally just get away with saying of a Soroscha Kosov Leimar? Do you need to mention the Psukim? That we need to clarify as well in the next piece of Gemara, where it sounds like, according to Rashi, the only Psukim you can actually say of a Soroscha is for the Korbanos, where Rabbeinu Tam said, no, the Korbanos you have to mention, but you can get away just saying of a Soroscha Kosov Leimar for the Psukim of Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofras. And at that point, it leads on to the next piece of Gemara, which is, when I say next, notice the next word of the Gemara is Gufa. Gufa means going back on what we've just mentioned before to clarify the situation. So we do need to look at those 2 areas, all being well, next week, if we were all right for next week. But a point to raise, we are coming up next week, actually, will be the last year before the Siyum. Why is that? Because the following week, we've got a wedding of our grandson in Etz Hashem. Looking forward. Even in Etz Yisrael, the chasnas continue. Let's hopefully. yet at the moment. Yeah, that's happening here. So we're looking forward to that. So that week will be open. The following week, we hope to have a Siyum. Now, Peter has arranged, well done, Peter, the possibility of utilizing the shul if people want to attend. I assume to be here. And so there will be a facility for Zoom and those people who want to come to shul to meet up together. Now, it depends, of course, how many people are keen, want to come. We've still got that option. Or if it turns out we've just got, the numbers are that small, then we won't put the shul throughout or people traveling to the shul. And we will just do a Zoom Siyum. And that will be 1, 2, 3 weeks' time. So if people can let Peter know, if people, general, can let Peter know by perhaps next Monday whether you want to attend on the 15th, I think we said, didn't we? 15th of November. If you want to attend the shul, I say no compulsion at all.
But where will you be? Where will you be? You're going to be.
I will be on Zoom because I will be. I hope to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It will be available for those who want to join the shul, and there will still be a Zoom facility, so that needs to be set up. But if it turns out most people prefer just to remain on the Zoom that we're doing every week, then so be it, and we won't have that. That's fine, and I think Peter then will cancel. So if you can just let Peter, those people who do want to attend, let Peter know, then we'll see what the numbers look like, make a decision, and that will be all being for the 15th. That's the first thing. The second thing is that will be all being well on the 15th, as you say. So next week, we've still got one more shiur, a little bit of Gemara left, as you can see, before we get to the Siyum, and leaving a last bit for the Siyum. I'm thinking in Eretz Hashem, after this month, complete this, to moving on to either one of two. I'm more inclined to go to Sukkah, which has got a huge amount. Now, somebody like Mervyn will put his hand up and say, but we did that 35 years ago, which is true, Mervyn. But nevertheless... Good
Asik and Joyful.
Oh, yes. Oh, good stuff. Good time for Chazor on that. Now, you could tell me we could do something completely different, like maybe Makkos. But Sukkah, I think, would be nice for people, even though it's a little bit of Chazor. Otherwise, go back to Sukkah. Sukkah is, say, it's got a huge amount there. Most people weren't there. Mervyn, you don't mind doing me a Chazor of Sukkah, do you?
No, I'll be mindful, yeah. What's made you choose that?
Sukkah, because I think it's I know it's true. There are so many Masechtas, but I do. It's nice to keep to Moed Masechtas.
Yeah, I agree. It has some relevance.
Yeah, that's Makkos could be quite relevant as well. Coming up with Makkos, but
as long as we keep away from Kodshim, that's important.
Oh no, well that you can do on your own, Mervyn. We'll let you do Mochim on your own. Although, yeah, so moving more, as I say, towards Sukkah for the next Masechta. That's the idea. But meanwhile, have a very good week, everybody. Okay. Can we, Peter, just bring up Tehillim Kof Chuvalof before we close?
I have to go now.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Laurie, you're well?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Good. And we got Sam there as well, I think. Joined us. Let's go to up Tanakh. There you go. Go to Tehillim 121, Psalms 121, and then we'll close for tonight. Psalms 121. Here we go. Shir Lamalois. Eson Horim Me'al
Yovo Ezri
Adonai Aseh Shamayim Va'aretz Yitzel Lamot Raglecha Ayono Shomerecha Lo Yishan Adonai Shomerecha Adonai Tzidkenu Al Yad Yaminecha Yavam Shemesh Lo Yakeka Yareach Balayla Adonai Yishmorecha Mikol Ra et Nafshecha Adonai Yishmor Tzedcha U'Orecha Yata Ve'yad Olam.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, Hashem Yismod Tzedcha going out, and looking forward to everybody coming back. The Shalom swiftly, and just to say the shall we say at the end, Achin and Kol Beis Yisrael, understood Torah of Shiur.
Und dem Ben Bayam ובין בבשעה, במקום לכם להם רוצים צול וכם לפלן, והמשיקות לגולה, שטוב עצמו חביב, ונאמר,
Gula Hashto Bagolo Uvisman Koriv, speedily in our days, Venoma Omein. Yeah, let's look forward to Metz Hashem Bakorov. And meanwhile, I'll say keep the tefillas going, gentlemen. I'm sure everybody thinking of all those individuals, those in the front, the captives, and those people. Sadly, so many families have lost their dear ones. And as I said before, it's really here. The feeling really is we are all one family. And I say everything's dropped. Politics has dropped. We're all in this together. And the Mitzvah Hashem, we look forward to Mitzvah Hashem to Yeshua's and Nechomas and good news. Thank you very much, Peter. All the best.